So good morning, here we are, first session in September, and I have decided it's going to be a restorative session. So if you don't have a bolster, it is quite easy to make one. You can get like a picnic blanket maybe, wrap it up in another blanket. You can get a cushion, wrap it up. If you've got soft floor, you can either get a blanket and wrap your mat around it. So basically we're looking for something that's going to hold its shape a little bit, maybe not quite as big as the bolster that I've got here, but something that we can use to support our body. Bolsters are great for restorative work, and again, it's we tend to think restorative yoga, it's too gentle. It's not really yoga, it's just lying on the floor. The whole point of restorative yoga or yin yoga, which is again very much about holding a pose for a little bit longer, getting into not just the actual joint, the muscles, but the fascia as well, is that it does just that. It just allows us, gives us a minute or two maybe in every pose. Some yin practices, you hold your pose for 5 minutes, for us to go in, like literally to drop right in. So I have my bolster here. We can use it to begin with if you like. And if you haven't got one, I say pause the video, go and grab something that you can just wrap up to make something round. It could be just a couple of cushions wrapped up in a blanket, maybe a couple of pillows even. Something that's going to give you that lift. So if we like, we could start with our legs over the bolster. That's always quite a nice position to start with the bolster at the back of your knees. We can have the heels a little bit closer, knees wide. So we've got the thighs rotating a little bit. And we can just start here. Nice place to start, in my opinion. So we're going to take a few moments. We're going to widen through the shoulder girdle. We're going to draw the chin in, maybe move the head a little bit side to side. Maybe bring the arms onto your belly so you can feel the gentle movement of your organic breath, the rib cage, the belly, maybe arms out to the side. Maybe bring the arms overhead, whatever works for you. Always remember this is your practice. So we're going to begin the process of letting go. And that really is the first job, to kind of begin to feel the outline of your body on the floor. Maybe begin to feel the sense of gravity drawing you in a little bit more. And allow the head of your upper arm bones to drop right down. You can have your shoulder blades on the ground, but the upper arms, the shoulder, as we call it, lifting off. So we need to kind of open up across the chest, the collarbone. Feel a little bit of tightness maybe. And we may find that as we're focusing on our breath without consciously changing it, that it does actually indeed become just a little bit stronger maybe. We don't have to change it, just be an observer. In all of our yoga practice, we're invited to be an observer. And remember, when I talk about yoga practice, I don't just mean our asana practice on the mat. I don't mean our little stretching we do. Our yoga practice, it's invited to be something that we carry with us all the time, 24/7. It's who we are, it's how we think, it's how we react, respond, it's how we talk, it's how we feel. Rather than just 1 hour or 2 hours a week on a mat doing some stretching. That's part of your yoga practice. Yoga means to join together, to yoke our mind and our body, and the breath is being called the bridge that joins them. And if our mind is too chaotic, we can't connect on our breath properly. If we're too busy, you're doing another job. Notice how often when you do something, sometimes maybe you actually hold your breath, maybe you stick your tongue. I notice I did a bit of artwork recently with one of my granddaughters, and it was very obvious that the tongue was slightly coming out, really focusing on what I was doing. I wasn't aware of my breath at all, but I knew that I was breathing, obviously. So just notice how during the day, different things, if you're concentrating, focusing, energizing, then your breath slightly changes. So let's do that little scan, top of your head all the way down through the soles of your feet, and just allow yourself to just let go, begin to soften. Can you feel yourself taking up more space, almost if you're becoming heavier? You're really allowing gravity to draw you right into the arms of Mother Earth beneath us. Keep drawing that chin in. I know I find that very often my chin floats up to the ceiling. And how do you feel today? And remember, the only person we can really be honest with is ourselves. We don't even have to voice. You don't have to say out loud to yourself, oh my God, I feel awful today. You feel it inside of you. That's okay. Maybe you have an intention for this practice this morning. You know it's going to be a gentle one. It's restorative. Maybe it is just to do that, to just come down for that fight or flight mode. Maybe notice you've got little tight areas you brought to the mat. That's okay. We bring them to the mat with compassion. Maybe we try to release them. Maybe that would be your intention, to try to kind of relax and release a little bit through the hips maybe. Maybe it's the shoulders, whatever it is. And let's begin by really giving that sense of softening through the whole body. Relaxing first of all through all the facial muscles, the forehead, the eyebrows even, temples, bridge of your nose, cheekbones, jawline, and soften through the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. Soften through the back of the neck, the throat, across your shoulders, your collarbone. You permission to feel vertebrae in your spinal column to just kind of just let go a little bit. You don't have to hold you up erect. We're just letting gravity. We're in our supine position. And releasing through the arms, softening through the forearms. Maybe they feel a bit tight. How does your tummy feel? We hold a lot of our anxiety there. Maybe just let one hand rest on your belly and see if you can feel almost a calming effect of the warmth of your hand. We hold a lot of our emotional baggage in our hips, and that can create tight hips. And it's okay, whatever we feel as we do this scan, all the way down to the soles of our feet, is totally okay. Here I am right now, this body, this breath. Here I am. So how's your mind as we kind of soften and kind of let go a little bit through the physical body? Is that helping us to kind of reduce the chitter-chatter of our thoughts, the volume, the pace of them? And so we no longer feel this kind of chaos going on in our head. Sometimes it's really overwhelming. And it's very easy to feel that. I felt it a little bit earlier this morning because we're going away as soon as I do this and put it on YouTube. I've got to make sure the plants are watered. I've got these wonderful little self-watering things. I'm looking at one now. It's already half empty. That means I need to top it up before we go. I've got to do this, got to do that, blah, 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 blah. It all seems a bit overwhelming until I'm actually in that car and we're going, and then it's like, okay, that's it. There's nothing else to be done. If the plants die, I'll buy another one, but I'm sure they will. So even in the smallest little things, it doesn't have to be something overwhelming in its importance, like something huge, earth-shattering, life-changing. It can just be, oh my God, I forgot to water the plants. So let's see if we can just keep the softness in the temples, release the facial muscles, relax the jaw, even the tongue inside of your mouth, around the eyes, behind the eyes. Draw the chin in, lift up the corners of your mouth. That may be just enough for you to begin to hear your breath. Remember, we have that option of our Ujjayi breath, that little closure in your throat, where the restriction of the flow creates what they call the ocean breath. It's quite a strong, loud sounding breath sometimes for some people. Other people it's just very soft. So as we take our attention to our breath, we feel the breath in our body, we have a sense of the breath, and now maybe we can just gently hear it. So as we take our attention to our breath, the invitation this morning is just to lengthen and deepen your breath. If you have your favourite pattern of doing your pranayama, remember we can breathe in equally, breathe in for 4, pause for 2, exhale for 4, pause for 2. We can have a lengthened exhale, we can have a lengthened inhale. We can do our box shape where you breathe in for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4. You can have an inhale for 4, exhale for 8 or 10, really lengthen it. So there's so many different patterns, and my invitation is for you to just find what works for you right now. as long as we're focused on our breath. There is some creative balance there that we have decided works for us this morning. We're aware of the rib cage expanding and contracting, the belly maybe opening and closing, feeling not just the intercostal muscles of the diaphragm, but all the muscles that surround the rib cage at the back, the front, the sides, the belly. Just relax the jaw. So let's just take maybe 2 minutes, just focusing purely on your breath. I'm not going to count for you. I'm not going to even talk. I'm going to try not to. And we're all going to just focus on our breath. Lengthen, deepen it to whatever rhythm works for you. Maybe just take a few more rounds of your breath. Remember, you're in your own space. If you wish to exhale through the mouth, please feel free to. Sometimes when we make a sound, it feels almost a little bit more releasing, or it does for me. One last round of your breath. And then maybe we can just come back to your organic breath gently. Just take a few kind of a little bit shorter breaths, a little shorter, until you come back to a rhythm that feels a bit more organic, less input from you. And in your own time, we're just going to move our head gently from side to side. If you haven't got anything under the back of your knees, can we now put something there? If either a bolster, your rolled up blanket, whatever it is you're going to use. And we're just going to bring our feet to the top of whatever you're using. So it could be a couple of cushions wrapped up in a blanket. And just do some pelvic tilts from here. So just by raising the feet, I'm hoping we're going to feel that it's a little bit different, the sensation to these little gentle pelvic tilts. A little bit more weight maybe coming into the lumbar spine, a little bit more intention of the rib cage staying on the ground, just letting this contraction go on. Arms out to the side maybe, or again resting on your body to do what feels right for you. And then casually sway those legs from side to side, gently rolling from the inside of one foot outside of the other foot. Maybe letting your head go in the opposite direction. That may feel lovely, nice little rhythm there. Don't force yourself to move your head if it doesn't feel like it needs to. Maybe just let your legs hang over to one side, resting on the outer edge of one foot inside of the other. Legs aren't on the ground, there's no intention of that. My legs have gone to the right, so we're feeling quite a little stretch, quite a strong stretch down the outer left thigh, hip, buttock, maybe coming round into the sacrum area. Chin floating slightly to the left. I'm going to lift my chin up, lift up through those knees. Maybe realign through the spine if you feel you need to. And then send the knees to the opposite direction. It really doesn't matter which one we're doing first, as long as you do both sides. And then again, feel this lovely stretch going down through, for me now it's on my right, back of my thigh, my buttock, the hip. Coming round a little bit into the lower back. Draw the navel in, head up to neutral if it moved, and bring those feet back. Can we now bring the soles of your feet together, coming into a slightly elevated cobbler pose? And again, we can rock around here a little bit side to side if you like. You may find you need to bring the bolster a bit closer to you, or maybe push it away a little bit. Again, find the right position. And what I found when I do this with my feet elevated is that I don't feel that arch in my back. I feel like my back feels very supported, very protective. I don't feel that I need to kind of draw the navel in or change anything. It feels very comfortable. My legs actually feel like they're a little bit more open than I feel they are sometimes on the floor. Whether they are or not, it doesn't matter, but that's how it feels. Remember, it's all about not how does it look, how does it feel? Draw the chin in, turn the corners of your mouth up. There's always something to smile about. Even on our gloomiest of days, you know, there is always something to be grateful for. Sometimes we get overwhelmed again. Here's that word, overwhelmed. That's obviously my theme at the moment, feeling overwhelmed. We get kind of literally swamped by a dark cloud, if you like. And it's hard sometimes to think that there's anything to be happy or grateful for in that moment. But there is, because you know what? We know the storm will always pass. It always does. Slowly, fingers to the outer thighs, gently lift up. And we're just going to roll the bolster away, or whatever you're using, and just rest your heels on it to begin with. So the rest of your legs are literally hanging down. And it could be that maybe, I don't know what else, you may be using your blocks to do this, maybe, that could be fine. So it's literally, I want you to feel as if somebody's holding onto your heels. So your legs almost feel as if they're bending backwards, coming down. Gravity's drawing them down towards the ground. So as the legs are relaxed, they're not energized, the back of your knee hopefully feels quite open. And if we don't do stretches like this, very passive, very gentle, there's no energy being expelled here at all. And if we don't do them, sometimes the back of those knees will never ever open completely. And we need them to, we need to feel that. Slowly and gently, maybe just dig your heels in and roll the bolster so that now the back of your heel is supported by the bolster. Notice how that feels a little bit more lifted, maybe the legs, not so hanging, not so heavy. And we're just going to slowly do this a couple of times, moving the bolster or whatever you're using, moving it up our legs. So now the calf muscles are supported, the ankles and the heels are floating and just hanging. And maybe see we can feel the weight of your lower legs, the shin bones, kind of squashing almost the calf muscles at the back there, but gently, it's like a little release. Surprising how heavy sometimes the lower legs feel. And then we're going to roll the bolster up. We're going to come back to the bolster under our knees, but we're going to have our legs straight this time. The toes are pointing up the ceiling, heels on the ground, everything is alignment, ankles, knees, hips, all in the same plane. And again, it just feels as though you can feel that gentle lift going on through the thighs now. You can always just lift the feet off the ground if you wanted to and just do some ankle rolls here. There's only so many ways we can move our feet and our ankle joints. So it's quite interesting to try and go through the whole range. So we can keep the flexibility through our ankles, and that helps us with our stability, helps us to feel confident about walking on uneven grounds, all sorts of things like that. Slowly and gently bring the bolster up a little bit more. So now the thighs have been kind of resting on it, and again you can begin to feel the strength of that thigh bone, kind of again, it's not squashing, I'm trying to think of it, there's a very gentle pressure on the mid almost of your hamstrings here, the back of your thighs. I feel like one leg feels heavier for some reason. I'm not quite sure why that is, that's quite interesting. Again, just be curious. Slowly, gently bend those knees. We're going to bring the bolster right to our buttocks, but not lifting up here. We're just going to bring it right to the base of our buttocks. And then we extend the legs over. So what I'm feeling here is that my butt cheeks are almost floating. Not quite, but almost. Draw the chin in. And again, we could, if we wanted to, just put a bit more pressure down into the bolster to lift up through. We can give the hips a bit of a wiggle maybe. We can lift the feet off. So we're kind of shifting all the weight back a little bit into the shoulders. Draw the navel in, see how that feels. And then slowly lower the heels down, lower the bottom down, the lower back, and slide those heels back towards you. So now we're going to lift up through the buttocks. First of all, we're just going to catch the butt cheeks here. So we're not coming into bridge pose. we're literally going to tilt so that the top of your hip bones come down towards the ground. There's almost a crease across your belly. And the pubic bone is realistically the highest part of your whole body, even including your nose. So let the weight come here. If this is enough for you, again, we've got the weight coming back into the shoulders. This is a great way to release the shoulders, is to actually bring the weight of your body into them. So make sure they feel comfortable. Again, we can extend out if we'd like to. Notice how that now gets into the quadriceps at the top there, the hip flexors. And again, draw the navel in, soften the lower ribs in maybe. And then let's slowly bend those knees, bring the feet. While we've got the hips lifted, let's come up onto the toes of your feet. So lifting the heels up, roll the bolster, coming underneath into your sacrum area. So now we're coming into our lovely supported bridge pose. Make sure that the shoulders feel nice and wide. Juicy peach between the chin and your collarbone so we're not squashing it. And again, just soften down. Notice if you're kind of arching up through the back already, can we soften the rib cage down? Can we get another vertebrae, another rib on the floor? So we've got so many options here. A psoas release would be to draw one knee, almost not even coming in towards your chest. You're just bending it, lifting up and extending the other leg away. So the heel is on the ground. And I'm really not pulling this right leg into me. It's just gravity. It's just the weight of my arms, just softening and allowing the right leg to fall a little bit closer towards my body. Just gently. And really, I am not pulling, I assure you. And then we can just change those legs over. We can let the right foot go down. We can draw the left leg towards you. We can slide the right leg away or not, your choice. Maybe holding onto the back of your thigh if that's more comfortable for you. And we're literally just letting the weight of your arms and gravity and your breath just do this wonderful sense of everything just softening down a little bit. And again, maybe you can feel on the right side, super deep stretch through the hip attachment here and through the hip flexors. That's your psoas muscle. We can extend both legs out. Just going to very briefly go through the whole range of motion so that you can decide what works for you. We can bend both knees up, feet off the ground, and just let the knees come above your hips. It is actually quite effortless. Once you've got that alignment, it really does feel quite light. We can lengthen the legs up. Again, this is another one of certainly one of my favourite positions, just like the legs up the wall, without the wall, and elevated your hips on the bolster. So this helps with the lymphatic drainage of the groin area. It doesn't change the flow. We have this compulsion. If we're upside down, then we're actually changing the flow of the blood, or the blood's easier to fall down because of gravity. It doesn't. We have our wonderful internal pump not just at the heart, there's another system that regulates the flow of the blood around your body. So being in any inversion doesn't necessarily change that. But it certainly may help us if we have a predisposition for varicose veins, tired legs. This is a great restorative pose. I could stay here for ages, but we're not going to. We're going to bend our knees, otherwise we won't have time to do anything else. Slowly, one foot down, suggesting we keep the heels off the ground to begin with. Just gently lift up through the hips, roll the bolster away. And maybe coming back so that it's under our knees again. Let's just do that. And again, keeping the legs straight. Notice how the lower back feels. Move the head around, broaden the shoulders. How does the upper body feel? We haven't really done anything to it except bring a lot more weight into it using, again, our body positions, gravity and our breath. We're going to draw those knees in. We're going to take the hands behind the back of the thighs. Maybe just roll around here. Head and shoulders on the ground or off the ground. You decide. And then we're going to roll ourselves up. And the invitation here, we've still got the bolster. You're going to roll it so again it's a little bit more into the back of our knees, so the knees are bent. And we're just going to slide our hands as far down our legs as they feel like they'd like to go. Rounding through our back now. Maybe the hands come down to your feet, maybe they're nowhere near. We're all different. As long as you feel this lovely, just releasing your body and just letting it rest on your legs. If your body and your thighs are touching, then hopefully your breath is coming into the back of your body. Take a few deep breaths. See if you can bring the breath into the lower part of your back and the space almost between the top of your hips and your lower ribs. And then maybe bring the breath up a little bit higher, coming up to the rib cage itself, maybe the space between your shoulder blades. And every time you exhale, just notice, do you feel as if you're coming down any further? Do you feel yourself softening a little bit more? And then slowly and gently just come back up. Fabulous. So we're going to sit on the bolster now. So again, we have many options. We can have it lengthways, which is what I'm going to do to begin with, and sit on it here, rolling it back maybe, and coming into your cross-legged position, or maybe the knees are out in front, legs straight, legs open, whatever feels right for you. So let's begin sitting that way, if that's comfortable for you. And again, if you're not using a bolster, you've just been rolling something up, you may find this may be enough, or maybe a block, maybe another cushion. So if you can, allow those knees to fall away from you, resting on the ground. So maybe kind of come a little bit onto the edge of whatever you're sitting on to get that sense. So the knees are lower than your hips. Again, it may be uncomfortable. If it is, then perhaps put something again. You may find one knee not playing ball this morning. That's okay. Maybe just put a little block underneath it. And just take a few moments. We're going to come back to our breath. How does it feel? Feels different when we're seated, remember. We'll just take 5 deep, strong breaths in. Little pause maybe between each segments of the breath. Maybe visualize your breath coming up like an elevator in your spinal column, coming right the way up from the basement, your tailbone coming right the way up to the crown of your head at the top of your breath. And as you exhale, you just allow that lift to come down again, picking up more energy. Inhaling again, you feel it coming right the way up. As if it's kind of sharing all the energy through every connection through the rib cage, every muscle in your back, around the sides of your waist. Fabulous. And then just roll the shoulders a little bit. Excuse me. So depending what I'm hoping, if you have got a bolster, then you're going to be able to bring your hands to either side. If you haven't, then we're fine. We just take the hands down to the floor, it's fine. So let's just bring that left hand to the floor. Right hand coming behind you, maybe first of all, to get that little side bend going, lifting up through the right shoulder, and then if you wish, we can extend the right arm up and over. But energize it, don't just kind of collapse it at the elbow, stretch it out. Slowly and gently come back. Let's do the same on the other side. Right hand on the floor with the bolster, tuck the left hand behind you. Maybe just stay here if that feels good. Make sure the left upper ribs come back a little bit. And then maybe if you wish to, option, stretch out through the left arm. Again, energize it, stretch the palms. Make the same hand position that you would in downward facing dog. So you're energizing between the fingers and the palm of your hand. Slowly and gently come back. Little twist here. Let's take the right hand over to the left thigh. Again, we can bring the left hand onto the bolster maybe to get your twist. If you're not on a bolster, maybe take your hands to the floor Otherwise, maybe just bring it round as if you're trying to do a little bind. Visualize this wonderful rotation progressively from the waist, from the middle of your back. Hold the twist. Let's take our chin to the right shoulder and then bring the chin back to the left shoulder. And slowly come back to center. Do the same on the other side. Left hand, right thigh. Maybe the right hand on the bolster. Maybe it's on the floor. Maybe you're tucking it around behind you, coming into a bit of a bind. Inhale, lengthen up. And then feel this lovely, the way that our spine is created means we have this little ability to rotate each vertebrae a little bit further than the one below it. Take the chin to the left shoulder, feel that beautiful stretch down either side of your neck maybe, and then come back chin to the right shoulder. And slowly and gently release. Fabulous. We're going to just extend those legs out. So I'm going to sit a little bit further back on the bolster. And again, we're going to do our inhale, lengthening up. This is almost like a slightly elevated Dandasana. And then just fold, soften the knees a little bit, folding down. We're not going to touch anything, the floor or your legs. And then you're going to come back up, rounding back up. Always imagine it's like a wave-like motion up to the ceiling, folding up the hip creases, reaching forwards. Close your eyes, it doesn't matter how far you come. Rounding up, bring the arms back and up. One last time, folding, rounding, coming wherever you can, belly resting on your thighs, and then allow your hands to come wherever they need to on the floor. Remember, it doesn't matter where they are. Slowly let the head come down a little bit. If the hamstrings are having a very loud chat to you, maybe bend your knees a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that at all. And then slowly and gently bring ourselves up. So we're going to turn sideways here. I'm going to stay exactly where I am, sitting on the bolster. I'm going to bring both of my legs to the right hand side, like kind of riding side saddle. Sitting up nice and tall. I'm going to take my left hand over to the floor and reach up with my right arm. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to bring my right hand onto the floor and reach up with my left arm. Noticing the completely different stretch on either side. Do that 2 more times on both sides. Leaning right over. Slowly coming back. Do the same on the other side. Notice which side feels tighter. Surprising, it may be the side that's elevated. Maybe you thought that it would be the other side. Again, no drama. Again, here we are observing, being curious. Perfect. And then come back. Suggestion, probably easier just to swing those legs around in front of you. And we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So now my right butt cheek is on the bolster. My legs are just kind of over to the left-hand side. And again, right hand on the floor. Here's this lovely stretch. Really feeling that's a nice stretch because this left hip is a little bit lower. And then coming back, left hand on the floor. Surprisingly, I find this a tighter stretch rather, sorry. And make sure, well, I mentioned twisting, we are not twisting. So make sure that that shoulder doesn't drop down. Keep it nice and elevated. Slowly coming back down. Sorry, a little bit of gardening there. One last time on both sides. If you're a plant person, which I am, I find it very difficult, even if I'm not in my own house or room. If I see a little leaf that needs to be taken off, little dead flower needs to be picked, I have very great trouble not doing it. Slowly coming back to centre. So now, option now, if we can, so really listen to how your knees feel. Okay, what I'd like us to do, if possible, is to come as if we are straddling the bolster. For me, this feels quite comfortable, but if you do have any problems with your ankles or your knees, it might not. So if that is the case, then we can just bring the feet a little bit further forward. So as long as we're still sitting upright. I'm going to come back to the feet coming back behind me. And then I'm going to bring my fingertips just onto the tips of my toes. So then if you've got your feet out in front, you just bring the fingertips down to the floor. We're going to inhale, lift up through that heart center. If you're comfortable, we can drop the hands right down. If that feels good, we're going to draw the shoulder blades together. I'm going to really try to feel that I'm bringing the head of my upper arm bones as far back as I can. And if we wanted to, we could just lift our hips gently off the bolster as well. And that will continue that stretch down through the quadriceps. And then slowly and gently come back. We're going to walk those hands forward. So again, even if you've got your feet out in front of you, it's totally fine. You just walk your hands forwards. And if your legs are in front of you, then you just rest your upper arm on the thigh. Otherwise, those of us that have got straddling, we can just come down, make that tower, 1 potato, 2 potato of your fist, and rest your chest on the bolster. So it almost becomes like a supported child's pose now. And then slowly and gently just bring ourselves up. So the invitation now is to do just that, as another version of supported child's pose, which would be to move the bolster out in front of you, so we can sit on our heels. Again, you know if your heels and your hips don't come together, maybe again, wherever I got that little block, there we go, you could just pop that between, so that you can really kind of sit down. We bring the bolster so it's between your thighs, we're not sitting on it. Hands go either side, and again we just rest our belly, our rib cage, or we can either keep your chin or your forehead on the bolster. I quite like to turn my head to one side and take a hand for a breath here. And then if you have got your head to one side like I have, I find this quite comfortable. I think I could probably sleep like this too. Then we need to very gently, making sure we don't over-rotate that neck and take your head in the other direction. This one will realistically probably not feel so comfortable. The one we choose first is our first choice. It's our preferred position of our head. And when we move it to the second position, the neck's probably going to feel a little bit iffy. So just be gentle. And then slowly and gently come back up. Okay, whatever we're using to support ourselves, we're going to take it sideways again, across your mat. And we're going to do some full side extensions. So, and we're all different proportions. So it's no good me saying that you could put your rib cage over the bolster, because it may not work for you. But that for me works. So the idea is that we lie on our side. We literally let, not quite the lower ribs, so we don't want to go in the waist. We're going to extend out through those legs. If you feel a bit wobbly, maybe just bend that top foot. We're going to extend out, if possible, through that lower arm. And you may have to wriggle around a bit to find the right position. And then we bring the other arm over top. And we try to feel, again, this will feel incredibly awkward to begin with, but maybe we just begin to feel that lovely stretch right from the forearms, through the upper arms, through the armpit, the ribs, all the way down through the top side of our body. Just take a couple more breaths. Notice you feel that you can either breathe into the upper side, or what you could do, play with it, is breathe into the bolster. So you feel that the lower ribs there kind of expanding, pushing a little bit. So it can be a very different sensation. If that's too much for you, you can always just hold on to your head. Another option would be to reach for your top foot. So I've got my right foot here, I'm holding it, and just going to come into a little half bow pose. So we can kind of play with it. You can let it be more energized if you wanted it to. Or we could just enjoy this beautiful side stretch. And then slowly and gently, just in your own manner, just lift yourself up. Suggestion would be just to roll over and do the other side. So I'm just going to do that without moving it. So again, the bolster not in the armpit, not in the waist. Try and find a position that works for you. And come into this deep side bend on the other side. Fabulous. Apologise for doing some gardening there. There's just some more leaves that need to come off. Slowly and gently again. We can kick it up another notch if you wanted to. Come into like a semi-bow pose. Don't have to. If it's too much, you can hold on to your head. Just kind of enjoy the sense of breathing into the upper part of your body, which is already open. And then breathing into the bolster. So those lower ribs feel like they're moving as well. Have a little play with it. And then slowly and gently again, just bring yourselves up. We're going to come away a little bit from that bolster because we don't want it to be in the middle of our back. So here we have options, which I know not everybody enjoys having their head hanging back. If that is the case, then that's totally fine. Maybe get something else to support your head. The idea is that the bolster is almost in the armpits here. And then we let the head hang back. Now, I like having my head hanging back. If you didn't, you may want to get another pillow or cushion to support your head. Or the option would be to come a little bit further away so that you've still got that openness, but the back of your neck and the base of your skull is actually slightly supported by the bolster. As long as we feel this openness, this is a heart opening pose. You can also feel your thoracic spine now is slightly in a back bend, which is the opposite to its normal shape. So we've changed the curvature of our upper back here. So either supporting the head if that feels better for you. Sometimes people get a bit lightheaded if the head's hanging back. Totally up to you. Either with a block, without a block, whatever floats your boat, guys. And again, for me personally, I like to come into my cobbler pose here. That's my kind of go-to, my default position. It just feels right. You may find you want to have your legs straight, bent. And you may be able to tell by my voice slightly changed. There's a deep stretch for me going on in the front of my throat. And indeed now actually my head is on the ground, whereas when I first started it wasn't. So everything is slowly releasing. Remember, you can be a little bit further down so that you've got your head very slightly supported by the bolster. It's totally fine. And then we're all going to come to that position. So we're going to scoot our bottoms away from the bolster. We're going to let the shoulders be supported, head be supported. Feels quite comfortable. It feels like, yeah, I could probably actually have a little nap here. Again, notice if you're kind of arching your back. We don't need to. We can soften the lower ribs down so you feel like the pelvic area is kind of flat on the ground. And that almost stretches out a little bit through the lumbar spine. Connect with your breath. Maybe as you do that, you feel everything still softening down a little bit. That's great. Maybe just wiggle yourself a little bit away. Make sure you kind of take your clothes with you, otherwise you end up strangling yourself. So now there's more of your back on the floor. I can feel the base of my rib cage on the floor now behind me. And my head's been lifted up slightly. Still getting the same kind of position with my chin and my collarbone, the little notch there. Shoulder blades lifted. And then slowly just move away a little bit. So we're kind of only doing, I don't know, 3 or 4 breaths maybe in every position. But the idea of this is to try for you to find a position that feels, I'm almost going to use that word blissful, but sublime is just like, oh gosh, that feels awesome. So now I can feel the base of my shoulder blades on the ground, the rest of them being lifted up, head's being lifted up. There's a little bit less of a gap between my chin and my collarbone now. And again, now it's the back of my neck that's having a gentle traction-like stretch. Draw the navel in, soften the lower ribs in the front of your body. And it may be that here we find it easier to lift the head up and just roll the bolster out a little bit. So now the bolster is in the back of my neck, but it's not in my shoulders. My shoulders are completely free of it. So now I can kind of tweak my shoulder blades and try to take them a little bit away from the base of my skull. So now my chin is almost touching my collarbone. We're not quite at the double chin position yet. What we can do here is gently move the head a little bit side to side, just enough for the back of your ear to touch the bolster, or whatever you're using, that may be enough. And then again, we're just going to lift up our head, and now, here we go, now we're going for the triple chin. And again, just go where it feels right for you. The idea now is that we try to drop the shoulders down to the ground, the shoulder blades lay flat, the head of your upper arm on the floor, the chin's really down now onto the collarbone almost, and this is giving our cervical spine a lovely traction. This is the only part of our spinal column that never changes its curvature. It's always in a back bend. However, we can stretch it. That's really good for it. So you feel almost like the base of your skull, the occipital ridge, is being drawn away from the shoulders, giving a lovely stretch, not just to the back of your neck, but maybe from the jawline coming down to the collarbone. And then we're just going to maybe one hand on your head, lift it up, roll the bolster away, keep that chin in as you lower your head down. Arms out to the side. Maybe again, for me, I feel the organic position would be my cobbler pose with my legs. Maybe that doesn't work for you. So just find whatever position feels right. I can't straighten my legs out, so I'm not going to do that anyway. And just notice if you feel as if, wow, I'm actually taking up way more space. My shoulders are widened, my back is wider, somehow my head feels heavier. Move the chin a little bit side to side. Stay connected to your breath. If your mind wanders, it's totally fine. Just recognize and acknowledge the thought that took your attention away and bring your focus back to your breath. I'm going to lift my legs up, I'm going to lift my head up and slowly and gently draw my knees in. Give them a little hug. Hands the back of your thighs again, just give yourself a little gentle rolling up. Fabulous. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our bolster to support us in our twists. Sometimes in our twist we're never quite sure where our leg ought to be, the top leg that's twisting. I know some people can get their knee on the ground. I can't if my shoulders are opposite shoulder grounded. Sometimes we need to hold the leg, sometimes the big toe comes down, but we're all different. So now the invitation is, and if you have got a bolster, make sure the zip side is down. I'm going to put it on my left side, lie down, so that when I come into my twist, I'm going to actually rest my leg there. So it doesn't matter which side you're going to put it, because whichever side we're going to roll to that side. So first of all, let's come onto our backs, feet on the ground, few little pelvic tilts maybe, check out how that feels. Draw both knees in towards your chest and just rock around a little bit. And then hold on. I'm going to hold on to my right leg because my bolster's over on my left side, extending out through the left leg. Right arm goes on the ground, right shoulder stays grounded. There's your anchor to Mother Earth. So that really is important. We can all lift it up and go all the way over, but we don't want to do that. Slowly and gently just roll onto the left butt cheek, take this right leg over, and hopefully you've got the bolster so that the ankle, the whole leg is supported here. So we're no longer confused about how far into this twist I ought to go. And in fact, for most of us, probably our thigh be parallel to the ground, which is great. Maybe we can slide that left shoulder through a little bit. And what we can do here, because there's no further twist to be done with our leg, is we can, maybe physically with your fingertips, grab hold of the right side of your rib cage and begin to bring it over. So we're almost twisting a little bit more now through our upper body. Draw the navel in. See if you can imagine you can bring the rib cage a little bit closer to the ground on the right hand side. So you're deepening this twist without moving your leg. Breathe into any tightness you feel. Again, maybe it's really hard to explain how I scoot through. I'm resting on my elbows, the back of my head. I lift up a little bit and I just bring that right shoulder further forwards, which actually deepens this twist through the upper body. My left hand is just resting on my right leg, just to make sure that it doesn't float up from the bolster. Just take another breath here. Maybe your head goes to the opposite shoulder of the knee. Let's take a little breath here. And then slowly and gently just come back. Just gently lift up. Realign through the spine. Maybe stay with your knees bent. Maybe extend the legs out just briefly. And notice how that side of your body, the right side, it was for me. Hopefully it was for you too. And then suggestion is probably just roll the bolster underneath your legs and take it to the other side. Draw both legs in. We start exactly the same way. Draw both legs in, hug them in nice and tight. Extend out. For me, it's the right leg I'm extending out. Left shoulder stays grounded, and I roll onto the right butt cheek. And there's the bolster, ready to support my leg, the ankle, the inner ankle, and the whole of the inside of my leg. This is fine. And this is quite a nice deep twist that I could stay here and breathe into it quite happily. If I wanted to go a little bit deeper, again, elbows into the ground, back of your head gently, we just lift up through the shoulder girdle and slide it through to the right hand side. So now my left shoulder and my upper left back feels much more grounded. Maybe fingertips on the left side of my rib cage. Can I kind of almost manhandle and maneuver the ribs over to deepen the twist? Nothing going on with the legs, they're already where they are. And then lightly turn your chin to the opposite. So now this has deepened the stretch of the outer thigh, the buttock, around the hip, coming into the lower back, the sacrum maybe. But I also feel it all the way across the front of my belly now that I've deepened it with the upper body. So although these lower ribs are not coming down to the ground, I'm visualizing, I'm trying to feel that they are. So if you like, I'm taking my rib cage away from the pelvic girdle. And then slowly come back to centre, chin up to centre. Roll slowly back onto your back. Bend both legs, realign through the spine. And just take a few moments here. Are you more aware of an openness? Do you feel like you're taking up more space on the mat? Does your back feel wider? Are you more aware of every vertebrae, every rib, the space between them almost as well? So we've come to Shavasana. And the idea about today's practice was really to show you, we didn't say in any of them, if this was the yin practice, one of those, or any of those positions, we'd stay in for at least a couple of minutes, maybe 5. But it was to show you that if you have got a bolster or anything you can use, a similar shape as a bolster, how we can use it to help open, release, feel a sense of just letting go, of being supported, of being held, if you like. So for Shavasana, find any position that works for you. Any position that where we were going through it, your body was going, oh, this is really good. I know for a lot of us, it certainly is for me, it's with coming back into the supported bridge pose and the legs up to the ceiling. For me, that is just perfect. And it is almost a mini inversion. Right? The hips are higher than your shoulders, the legs up in the sky. It's almost an inversion. If that's not for you, then just find a position that is. And give your body permission. We have to give our body permission. We have to allow it to let go. Because its job really is to maintain a sense of control over what it's doing. But now your job is to allow it to just let go. Coming back to your breath, always, 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 always coming back to our breath. If your mind's wandering, we've got loads of to-do things, reminders in our mind, and that's fine. Maybe just create a little wall in your mind and put the post-it notes there, reminders. See if we can let go of some of the emotional baggage that a lot of us bring through us daily. Can't go back and change our past. And neither ought we to, because you know what, in order for us to fall back in love with ourselves, we have to recognise that everything that's happened to us has made us who we are. It's made us stronger, maybe more compassionate, maybe more patient, more tolerant. And then the future, none of us really knows, does it? We all like to think we're in the driving seat of our future, but very often we're just a passenger. We make plans, we hope they're going to happen the way that we visualise them. But they literally, I think I've shared with you already, one of my teachers' most prophetic little phrases was, your future only exists in your imagination. And yet we're so sure of our future. We have 1 year plans, 2 year plans, 5 year plans maybe. We're going to do this, then we're going to do that. And it's great to have plans, obviously. And sometimes they work out completely as we had planned them. Other times not so much, because stuff happens. It's like stuff comes in and trips us up. And that's okay. But for now, just be here with your mind calm. Your mind focusing on the sensations of your body and your beautiful breath that just keeps everything flowing. Here I am right now, this body, this breath, this moment, that's all that ever is, this moment right now. For those of you watching this on YouTube, please feel free to stay in your Shavasana as long as you have available for you. As always, I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much. Namaste.